Okay, so we're back taking a look at the second dev server patch for the Wings of Change update coming to War Thunder. Very first thing, the new camouflage pattern for the A10A Premium has been added. So presumably if you do the pre-order bonus and all that to get the custom skin, this is the paint job you're going to be getting. The Tech Tree A10 is still not present, but supposedly it's going to be going right there in between the AV8C and the A7D. So we'll see what happens there. The loadouts, I'm not sure if you noticed, but I noticed immediately at a quick glance. It looks like we've got some new higher resolution icons for some of these weapons. Especially the bombs. These icons definitely look a bit different. I'm hoping it's not just like an optical illusion from perception bias or something. Because I think these icons look pretty neat. So, unfortunately, again, we don't have the regular Tech Tree A10 to look at, but I definitely wanted to show you. This is the custom camouflage skin that you're going to be getting from the Premium A10. So there are also some new weapon loadouts on a couple of aircraft. One of them in particular I wanted to highlight is the Su-22M3. That's the squadron vehicle down in the Soviet Tech Tree. The new loadout is right here. It's got two KH-25MLs, laser-guided missiles, and two of the KH-29Ls, which are the big boy laser-guided missiles, and a pair of R-60s. So I think that is going to be a very interesting loadout option for people flying this out as close air support. Very interested to take that out into some missions and see what can be done with that loadout. I think it's going to dramatically improve the utility of the Su-22M3. Which was already pretty good to begin with. So, you know, I consider that to be, I consider this additional loadout to be a pretty solid buff. I'm not really sure if this plane needed it, but it's there. So the real star of the second dev server, at least from where I'm sitting, is right here. It's the J-8B. This is a very interesting aircraft that I am absolutely looking forward to doing a full review on as soon as possible. In this implementation, here on the second dev server, and again, disclaimer, this is all subject to change, it has a very basic radar set with really no advanced features beyond the ACM boresight mode, but we'll see what happens there. The PL-8 missiles are listed here as one of the upgrades. However, they are not reflected yet in the actual weapon loadouts. There's also, they call it the PF-10. It's supposed to be the PL-10, but that's fine. The semi-active radar missile is also present. We've got the loadout for it here, and we're going to take a look at that in a test flight in a second. And this aircraft gets chaff and some ammo belts for its guns. Now, one of the other things to note, there's no ballistics computer or anything like that, at least not yet, for any of the air-to-ground weapons. It can take some unguided rocket pods and some unguided bombs, and we'll take a look at that in a second. But for right now, let's dive right into a test flight. Now, right off the bat, we have a fairly good cockpit for a plane that's still on the dev server. We've got the huge radar B-scope right there in an easy-to-see spot. No radar warning receiver, unfortunately. That's something I personally always look for in the cockpit. They do not have it visible here. We have a heads-up display, and that is a full heads-up display. So I'm optimistic about taking a look at that once we get that into the live server. and seeing what the heads-up display is going to do. Let's take out this SPAA with the gun, which of course does not have the CCIP or anything, just so that we don't have the radar warning receiver beeping at us the whole time that we're taking a look here. So we'll go in. There we go. So there are some visual glitches. If you notice, the elevators are a little confused, but that's fine. All right, so we'll lock up this MiG-15. Now, these semi-active radar missiles have very long minimum engagement ranges. These are copies of the Italian Aspide, which are copies of one of the medium-end AIM-7 Sparrows. I don't remember which off the top of my head. I think it might be the AIM-7 E2. Not medium-end in terms of War Thunder, but just medium-end, you know, in terms of the Sparrow family. They're interesting missiles. You know, they were used as the basis for some later Chinese missile development. And it looks like, you know, the loadout options we're going to get on the J-8B here is only going to be 2 of them. So the weapons loadouts are probably going to be limited on this plane, which is not probably going to be a tech gripe of mine. The J-8-2 series and really the J-8-1 series actually did have some somewhat limited weapon loads, because these are interceptors. These were not intended to be like heavy dogfighters. These are interceptors, and they've got a very interesting story. So, like I said, I'm going to be looking forward to doing a full review of these when the opportunity presents itself, when the game goes live. But let's catch up to this MiG-15 and see what we can get for a long-range missile shot. Oh, before that, I'll actually show you the range on this radar set. The range presets go from 19 kilometers, 37 to 74. So there are better and there are worse in terms of the range presets. The dish angle, I should have showed you that, but I'll just take this missile shot real quick so you can get an idea what the PL-10 is doing. So I was able to get a guy cutting across me horizontally, but we've got 90 degrees by 11 and 90 degrees by 6 as our 2 angle presets on that radar, so not the best, not the worst. The ACM bore sight is, we got a nice horizontal rectangle there, so that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. And of course the cannon, we've got the nice 23, I think it's 23 millimeter cannon. But let's switch out to one of the other loadouts. Okay, so we're going to go up with a couple of bombs, and this might be a little bit of a spoiler, so check this out. The icon for this loadout is the cluster of 3 bombs coming off the pylon. But the loadout is only 2 500-pound bombs. And if we look, it looks as if only 2 500-pound bombs are actually modeled on the plane. So I'm not really too sure if that loadout is actually going to be the 6 bombs or the 2. Let's take a quick look. Okay, so the rocket pods look like they're correctly modeled there, because we've got the 4 rocket pods, 20 rockets each, so that looks correct. But let's take these bombs out and see what we get out of it. Now, in real life, the J-8 family, including the J-8-2, had a whole bunch of different versions with sometimes dramatically different payloads and weapons capabilities. So it'll be interesting to see what happens here. Like, some of the J-8 versions had like centerline pylons for bombs and stuff like that, and fuel tanks. Some of them had, you know, significantly more than 2 air-to-air missiles carried on their wing pylons. So, you know, this is still dev server content, and it's still not entirely clear which version of the J-8-2 this is actually supposed to represent. I have an opinion about that, but I'm going to withhold judgment until we get the final version. So let's go in and see if I can miss on an unguided bombing run here. Yep, and I could indeed miss. All right. Let's take it back around with our 1 bomb for some reason. Oh, there's actually something else I want to show you before I clip out of this. So we'll dive in nice and straight, drop our bomb. And probably miss again, because we're just messing around. Okay, yeah, so Tim sucks at bombing. There's the lesson there. But this is what I wanted to show you. Check this out. We've got some relatively significant air brakes going on there. We've got 4 braking surfaces. And we've got takeoff flaps. And when we drop the gear, the vertical tail fin. Look at that. It folds under like a MiG-23. I love that. I love those little mechanical touches in the aircraft like that. I think that's great. So I'm very much looking forward to this plane. And there is one more thing I want to show you before I close out this video. Okay, so the last thing I want to show you, the F-104 ASA. The Italian players are getting thrown a bone. So checking out the loadouts are significantly improved over what they were in the first dev server. So we've got a couple of loadout options with the Sidewinders and the internal gun. That's good to see. And we have some loadouts with the air-to-ground payloads and the internal gun, which is very good to see. I'm particularly interested in this loadout here of the 6 750-pound bombs and the internal Vulcan cannon. And we've got, as you can see right there, we've got the full ballistics computer for all those air-to-ground weapons, so that'll be interesting. The radar's still the same old thing, but there is something really special I want to show you. Oh, and of course I click on the wrong thing. Countermeasures. Finally, the Italian air tree is getting some countermeasures. So, Italian pilots rejoice, you're finally going to get flares. So, in my opinion, that is a significant buff to this aircraft. And it reflects reality. You know, in real life, the F-104S ASA upgrade did carry some countermeasures. That was a real thing. And these loadouts look a little bit more accurate to the real-world loadouts, at least as far as I'm familiar with. The long story short, in order to carry the Aspide missiles, the internal gun bay needed to be replaced by some additional electronic equipment. That if you saw my review on the F-104S, one of the big features of the aircraft was that it had like a modular weapon system. And one of the things that was modular about it was that they could remove the internal cannon and use that space for, extra avionics and electronic stuff. And to get compatibility with the Aspide missile, that's what they had to do. I'm kind of disappointed that we don't get a loadout of 2 Aspides and a couple of tip winders. That would have been nice, and maybe we'll see that when it goes live. Because the loadout of just 2 semi-active radar homing missiles, even, relatively good ones, and if you look at those stats, that is not a crappy missile. 35G maneuvering, so not bad. But, being the entire loadout, I think that's going to be a tough sell. So we'll see what happens when it goes live. I'll definitely be taking another look at this, once we get the live update, probably next week. But in any case, that's all I wanted to show you for this video real quick. Closing out there the F-104S ASA, I think that's a significant buff that it just got. Those extra loadout options that have the gun and the tip winders, or the gun and the air-to-ground weapons, and finally, countermeasures. So, there you go. As always, thanks for watching.